Welcome everyone. Welcome back everyone to another episode of Vietnam Crypto Insights. We're here again in Thao Dien in Runam Cafe.
Oh man,
Yeah,
really nice cafe. A little hot today,
it's
but
getting quite hot. Even though it's rainy season, it's still quite hot.
yeah,
Uh,
I think that they merge, like the hot and the rainy season, both at the same time converge. It seems like I don't know. It seems like the more closer it gets to June, the more hotter it gets, and then also it gets rainy too.
that's the worst. Is like you get like the extra humidity from the rain, but then it doesn't actually cool off everything,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah. You get those spurts where it might cool off about an hour or two a day, and then you're back at full heat, full humidity.
you
It's
know,
all good.
Speaking about heat, there's a lot of heat going on in the crypto markets.
Oh my God, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
always exciting.
very exciting, man. Very intense. Dude, they just approved another ETF in your neck of the woods, man. For Ethereum,
Yeah,
Australia.
we were just talking about this. Like you were saying, like, oh, it's crazy how it took the US so long, and then
Oh
Australia
man,
just,
so slow.
but Australia just did it in 2 months, right?
2 months, man. I can't believe it. They're not over the final little hurdle that they do in the U.S. The S1 forms for the Ethereum ETF, spot ETF, but that's a formality. Most of the analysts say it's a 99% chance after they approve the initial stages. But yeah, they now they're talking about they might do a Solana one, but hell, that's not be the next cycle before they get the Solana
Dude, you never
ETF.
know, man. They might push it through. Now that they've got a framework, they got the Bitcoin, they got the Ethereum. Like it could just happen, man.
They're so slow, man. I think the only thing that will save it is if they make this other bill, the FIT 21, make that into law. Biden, of course, vetoed the SAB 121, which is repeal, was an effective repeal of the SEC's staff advisory bulletin that actually um, was kind of gave a negative take on how to do the accounting and kind of frowned upon the accounting holding banks holding and financial institutions holding crypto. And Congress had passed a bill that actually basically you know cast that aside. Of course, that was a regulatory guidance. It wasn't really law, but the Congress passed a law. They were gonna pass a law, but Biden just vetoed that. So I'm hoping the FIT 21 comes in, makes it more clearer, makes the process a little bit faster. But yeah, I don't have any hopes in this Solana FTTF coming out anytime soon in the U.S. Man, it's just they're all over the place.
Look, the big news this cycle is from a regulatory point of view. Is we got the Bitcoin ETF, we got the Ethereum ETF. So I think it makes sense it's going to come in pairs. So next cycle, it's going to be Solana, it's going to be Dogecoin.
Oh man,
You heard
some
it
other
so
meme
first.
coin, some other
So
meme
yeah,
coin,
you heard it here first.
some other meme
It's
coin.
going to be. We're
I
going to see a
guarantee, I guarantee you to be some other meme
we're
coin.
going to see a Dogecoin ETF. You heard it here first.
I was looking at a survey, AMB Crypto. They had a survey, like 550 people. Man, they were like saying how um, most of the people favor meme coins over even BTC. Like I think it's like 57%.
What you mean, like just like normal retail investors,
Yeah,
like normal retail?
normal. Yeah, they'd rather buy a meme coin than even Bitcoin.
Well, at the end of the day, like it's kind of funny because you talk about like portfolio construction for like institutional investors, and they're like, oh, 1 to 5% or like 1% of your portfolio should be in a high risk asset like Bitcoin. And for those of us that are crypto native, like we see that as a safe and secure asset with hard money, and all of that. But the thing is, there is actually no difference between the way that these institutions look at Bitcoin and crypto as general and general retail. And so for general retail, it's like, well, Bitcoin is just as speculative as buying Dogecoin or SHIB. But Bitcoin is worth in the thousands of dollars. I'm not gonna like for me to make a 10x on Bitcoin, it needs to hit like 600 grand. Like that's not gonna happen. Whereas Dogecoin can go from 10 cents to $1. And so that mindset of like, well, actually, they actually see the risk in the same way, even though they're less sophisticated investors, they still see it in the same way. And the reality is that it's a high volatile, like Bitcoin and all crypto assets, are high volatile assets that that are subject to massive price fluctuations.
And then people that's just getting in, they don't understand about the fractionalized nature of these assets. So, when they see something that's valued at 70,000, they say, "Oh, I can't buy that," because they're thinking of it as a stock. You don't have to buy 70,000 to get into Bitcoin. You could buy $7 worth of Bitcoin.
Well,
So
yeah, you look at the example of like in the stock market. No one, probably one of the safest assets you could buy is Berkshire Hathaway, stock. But people aren't speculating on that. Retail investors that get into the stock market are, trying to fuck over these institutional investors that are shorting GameStop. Like
oh
we're
man,
just like, how crazy is it that we're just like repeating 2020 again?
yeah, they're doing stuff. I was looking at Twitter, my Twitter feed the other day. I just shook my head. They actually shut down Robinhood the other day too, which is where a lot of the retail investors were buying.
That's they who shut it down?
It just these companies. I think they do that on purpose, man. They don't want, they've got backdoor deals. I think Robinhood actually got in trouble, but they had a lot of scrutiny about that.
Yeah, because they were selling the data.
Yeah, they were. Yeah,
So
because
they were selling data to institutions so that the institutions could take the other side of the positions that retail
Yeah,
were taking.
and but the problem is they're people are buying and they're not they like shut it down. That's not what you're supposed
That's
to
not a
do.
free market.
No, that's not a free market.
That's not the capitalist free
That's crap.
market that we get told that we have.
That's crap, dude. Coinbase has actually been guilty of that too, and they're supposed to have done so much the past couple years. Oh yeah, we're going to build up our systems, and they're going to be more robust. As soon as Bitcoin starts going up really fast or anything like that, it stops working.
The crazy thing is like I remember back in like the 2017 bull market when like most of like the ICO bubble was just full of vaporware. There was not really like at that time it was all the narrative was e-killers. So like all of these chains were coming up. There were all these L1s. No one was really building like a lot of dApps on top of it. I mean like Aave and stuff kind of came in. They raised money I think at the back of it like at the beginning of 2018, right? So like the proper DeFi blue chip applications that we see now, like the money market and stuff, only started happening around then. But there wasn't really any dexes or anything. I know Binance were talking about building a dex back then, and that was their goal with their exchanges to get to that point. But there was like this whole concept around the technology just not being there for dexes to function correctly. And the ironic thing is like so March 2020 and particularly April 2021 when we had those massive corrections on Bitcoin where the market dumped like 40% of this over the space of a couple of days. Like I remember the April 2021 situation. There was like $6 billion worth of liquidations that happened on Bitcoin alone. It was the most at the time. I don't know if it's been beaten since then. I don't think we haven't had that much volatility since then, so I don't think it has. But the thing is, I was watching the markets that day. I was on TradingView. I was at work, but I was watching the markets. Pretty much every single centralized exchange went down. Binance went down. BitMEX went down. All of them went down. Coinbase went down. Everything went down, but none of the dexes went down during that time. Yeah. They were still filling orders like clockwork.
That just goes to show you, man. You can't trust these centralized exchanges too much. I think they were halting. They were preventing themselves from getting any losses.
But yeah, I mean that's possible. Also, the other thing is like, I think like you look like a lot of the arguments against like smart. Yeah, I definitely think that's true. But like I think like a lot of the arguments against like smart contracts and blockchains in general is just that like it's just a really slow database and there is no benefit to it. But also at the same time, it's like you look at these centralized exchanges that are built on Web2 infrastructure, and the thing is, in situations like this where you have significantly high volume, they collapse. But then you have a decentralized blockchain that's technically slower than a centralized database, but actually it can withstand these shocks,
more,
right?
Yeah.
So it's actually like an argument for the fact that actually having this decentralized infrastructure is actually better in many ways.
Even though money, man. Programmable money. That's the selling point.
Exactly.
Hopefully they sell a lot of Ethereum based upon that concept. Because the concept for Bitcoin, digital gold, programmable money. That's going to be the selling point for the ETFs, man.
Yeah, exactly.
For Ethereum.
I think we spoke about this last time, but you were talking about like some of the amendments they made to push the Ethereum ETF through was that they would no longer be distributing the yield
Yeah,
from
and
staking, the staking
Yeah,
yield
yeah.
through ETH
That's
2.0.
that actually was kind of lending some like credibility to the security aspect, I think, and that's because stocks do that. They give you like some sort of dividend yield.
Yes.
So they, that's good that they pulled that out of there.
Well, but the thing is, I think yeah, I mean, it is good because I think it actually further reinforces that now that once the ETF goes live, is that these like BlackRock and stuff will have more incentives to actually push that over the Bitcoin ETF because there is an underlying yield for that asset that they can take in. So they get I think it's like the interest rate is like 4.5% or something like that
Yeah.
for staking. So like they can do this, they can stake the E. They're making 4.5% on whatever they're making, and then on top of that, they're making their fees on the spot ETF. So like they're double dipping.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if Coinbase. See, Coinbase is actually the custodian of a lot of the ETF funds.
Right. Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. I don't think that that's part of the framework because they don't want to get in trouble.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
Maybe.
think they took that out of the framework. I think that
So,
maybe they're making a yield behind the back. I don't know, but I don't think they're legally allowed to.
yeah, because like in terms of the regulation around the spot ETF, like what is it they're supposed to hold? Like they're supposed to like what's the? They just need to be able to affirm that they will
Custody.
have one-to-one transaction.
For the spot ETFs, they got to have 1-to-1. So if it's somebody buys $70,000 in shares for Bitcoin ETF, then that's pretty much that's one Bitcoin. And so the fund would have to buy from Coinbase the Bitcoin and then custody it with them. Because I think only I think Fidelity's custody in their own crypto, and I think there's one other one. It's like 10 different firms that have Bitcoin ETFs, I believe. Now, there might be a few more that actually have filed for them, but that's how they're working it.
But in terms of like having to custody the Bitcoin or like the Ethereum, like is there anything that's like stopping them from just taking the ETH and then staking it?
I haven't looked at the final documentation, but I think they pulled all of that out of there because that was going to hold them back. That was actually going to lead to a rejection, in my opinion.
Right.
And they was going to get rejected on that basis alone, which is why they reworded everything. Interesting. So, I know it kind of hurts the consumer, but at the same point, I mean, it's going to help them in the long term. Hell, they've gotten the past 2 weeks. I was looking at. There's been about $3 billion in Ethereum that have left centralized exchanges, and there's
That's
only
bullish.
there's one Ethereum ETF that's opened up live, I believe, in Hong Kong. There's one that's live, I believe, in London, UK. I think the Australian ETF for spot ETF for Ethereum is tomorrow. The U.S. anywhere from 1 to 2 more months, even though they've got through almost a long 2-year process already, and they still got a last little final formality they got to do with these S1 filing, which is 99% going to be a big chance of being approved according to analysts. But once they hit in the U.S., man, it's going to be billions more. I guarantee it. And we're like 10% of the supply of Ethereum right now on the exchanges, and that's pretty low. That's the lowest it's been in years. So what's going to happen pretty soon is going to be a supply shock, and you guarantee that price is going to go up after that.
Well, when Bitcoin was pushing up through all of that time, it was exactly the same situation, right? From 40K upwards to where it is now. And what had happened was there just like was no Bitcoin on the exchanges for them to buy. So like there was like an actual shortage of Bitcoin, which is what pushed the price up during that period of time. Amongst like there was obviously a lot of derivative speculation that also added fuel to the fire.
It's going to be interesting to see, man. I'm hoping we get a all-time high again sometime soon with Ethereum. I mean, everybody's got the all-time high with Bitcoin prematurely, but yeah, we'll see it because these ETFs are going to drive it.
Yes, I think so too. I think the ETF's going to drive more speculation. An interesting thing that I did during that time was like, I was like, okay, so like, what is the leverage way to take a position on this, the bullishness of the ETF? And the thing to do is to buy meme coins on the Ethereum network. And
Yeah.
actually like that, like Pepe just fucking boosted at
Oh,
the
yeah.
on the
Oh,
back
yeah.
of this, right? So like that like that's a you can take a spot leverage position by literally just like holding meme coins because you know that is what's going to drive like the
It's
market
gonna jump.
mentality is gonna do that. I mean, not financial advice, but you know,
Yeah, the
something
ones,
to think about.
some of the ones I think even one or two on base have been jumped up. There's, of course, all the ones on Solana have been really pumping. I was kind of surprised they had two or three different ones for political ones, MAGA and Trump and Jill, Joe Biden. Yeah, I mean they got some funny stuff that comes out, man.
Dude,
They've all been pumping, man.
if Trump gets elected, dude, do you know how crazy those coins are gonna go?
Oh man,
Like that will be the
just
shiv of this
yeah,
cycle.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt.
What
Yeah,
do you
that's
think
it.
that? What's like
I've
your
been saying
percentage
this.
probability that
I've been
he'll get?
saying this for about a year and a half, and I meant it. I mean, a lot of people thought I was joking. I said, man, this guy's going to get. He's going to go through these trials, and he might get convicted of one or two cases. He's going to get elected, and he's still going to pardon himself. I mean, I really don't care for Trump that much. I don't care for Biden either, but I mean, he's he's
Too old.
he's of the ilk that he's he's going to he's going to pardon himself if he can. And the people that's going for him, they don't care. They don't care what he's done. He said it before he got elected the first time. I could shoot a man on the street in Manhattan, and they'll still elect me.
That's
So,
just crazy.
yeah, it's diabolical. But yeah, and I hate to say this, but he would actually be good for crypto. The
Yes,
Biden the Biden administration is, especially with that veto of the overturning of the SAB 121. I think that was just, he's barking up the wrong tree, man. The tide is turning. The electorate doesn't want to see. They want to be able to have crypto. They want, there's so much financial nihilism going on. People don't believe in financial institutions. They don't believe in political institutions. The average person wants to have control of their financial future, and right now, with what the banks are doing and the Fed is doing, I mean, it was really intriguing to watch Kathy Woods. I watched part of her talk at Consensus Online, and she really went in on the Fed. She was like, "Man, you think that these people they can with their meetings, 6, 7 times a year, whatever they meet, and their policies. You think that they can make effective policy for the globe with their little interest rate here, change this policy? You think they can make effective policy to make everybody better off? No, they can't. And this is what she really went in on, and I admire her. Hats off to Kathy Woods. I got a buddy of mine that really doesn't admire her, but for her crypto stance and her crypto leanings, I mean, she's actually, I got to hats off to her, man. She's actually doing really well with their Ethereum ETF that's coming out, and also her Bitcoin ETF. Ark Investors got some really good talent. I didn't know they've been investigating Bitcoin since 2014. They were an early adopter.
Yeah.
Wow.
A long time.
Long
Yeah.
time.
They were like one of the first institutions that were kind of
Wow.
looking into crypto
That's
assets
incredible.
as a whole.
Yeah, because she went in talking about that. And I was like, I didn't know she's been around that long.
Many of the TradFi people that were like really earlier on into Bitcoin and crypto in general, actually were like quite looking into this like back in 2013, 2014, and looking at it as a crypto asset, as like an investment vehicle, and
That's interesting.
yeah, so like a lot of this stuff was kind of brewing in the background until it took a couple of
Took a
cycles.
while, man.
It took a couple of cycles for the thing is. So this is the thing. It's like many of these people were like bullish on it, but you got to think some of these people are running $100 million portfolios.
Yeah.
They've got insane amounts of wealth. When Bitcoin was only at like a $20 million market cap, you can't take a position in that because you
Right.
just don't have enough liquidity for you to without moving the market so much. You know,
Yeah,
so
people frown. Those kind of institutions typically would frown upon something about like Bitcoin back then, and too. I mean, most of them did. So she's actually was way ahead of the curve.
mm,
Way ahead of the curve.
it's a
Speaking of institutions, did you see what Michael Saylor said the other day?
well, but his whole like backflip on
Yeah,
Ethereum after it got
yeah,
approved. Yeah,
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 yeah. He
yeah.
was like, oh, yeah, there is a second best option. This guy, man, he can go on and on. I call him Saylorisms. He can go on and on with all these little talks about these little sayings about Bitcoin is this and Bitcoin is that. So man, sometimes it used to be refreshing to hear him, but after a while, it's like, man, will this guy really stop it with this Bitcoin
Uh,
stuff? But he
I
said
will
there
give
is
him
a second best option now, Ethereum.
I
Wow,
will give him credit.
I can't believe it.
I will give it, yeah. Like I remember like seeing the stuff before the Ethereum ETF came out. There was a video circulating of him doing an interview, and it's just like he was saying like all of these assets are securities. None of them will exist. There will be no ETF. There will not be institutional adoption of Ethereum and all of that
Yeah,
and all of these assets.
yeah.
And I was like, this guy is like turning into the Peter Schiff of Bitcoin. And then immediately, like 2 weeks later, it gets approved, and he's just like, you know what? I've been presented with new information and I'm going to change my view. And he's like, you know what? This is actually still bullish for Bitcoin because now instead of it only being 1%, maybe funds will allocate 5%. And then Bitcoin will still form like a 3 of that 5% allocation. And then you'll have these other crypto assets. And now, it's an interesting turn of that situation. And also, it speaks to this concept of like Bitcoin maximalism, right? And that there are people that were like really Bitcoin maxis that are now starting to kind of understand, like, oh, hey, there's actually room for other assets to exist outside of Bitcoin. Like the whole financial world cannot run on Bitcoin alone, one asset. Like it doesn't make any sense.
This is a technology that is not. It's not set for just one, type of brand or one type of little nuance. I mean, there's room for a lot of growth. I mean, this is you can't stop at one technology, just Bitcoin. There's a lot of blockchain technology that's involved. I mean, you can't just say that that's it. It's the end all of everything. I mean, why? Why would you say that? That makes no sense. So this tribalism just makes no sense to me.
Two things on that point. Like first of all, like I think like what this also means is like there's a lot of talk and a lot of movement around like Bitcoin L2s coming out, and I think it gives them more strength. So like there's like an ecosystem that I've been looking into a lot lately. Botanics, which is like it's like an EVM layer 2 that's built on top of Bitcoin. They're like in the testnet phase now, and they've got like a growing ecosystem. And I think like this is going to be bullish for that in the long term because actually it means that now there's something for you to do with your Bitcoin because you now have DeFi applications built on top of the Bitcoin network that you can utilize. So that's really cool. I think that's really important. The other second point is I think that a lot of Bitcoin maximalists fall into this. We all have blind spots, and they don't realize that they have these blind spots around the fact that, like, well, because they were early investors in Bitcoin and they made insane amounts of money from it, they benefit from everyone just using Bitcoin because obviously it's just going to mean their bags are going to go up, and so they have this mindset of like, it's kind of funny because when all of like the SEC was going after Coinbase, they were going after these different crypto assets. All the Bitcoin maxis were like, yeah, let the government step in.
Right.
Let the government step in and let's regulate these
Let's
frauds.
get them out.
Yeah, let's regulate these frauds.
We should be the only crypto. We should be the only company.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
the only entity.
The premise behind Bitcoin was to free the financial system from centralized control of the government.
Yeah.
And so it's super ironic just like watching that hypocrisy within them because it's obvious when you see the Bitcoin maxis that are talking like that, it's obvious that they have massive bags and they bought them really early on and now they just want their bags to keep going up. Yeah. They don't actually give a shit about the fundamentals behind why Bitcoin exists.
There was a good point I seen on Anthony Pompeo on the show. He was breaking the point of like, whereas like in the traditional market or any sort of like retail framework or in the marketplace anywhere. If you have, like, say, for instance, a Burger King on the corner, if you have a McDonald's that opens up next to it, or vice versa, that corner is going to get more traction for both businesses.
Yes.
And he was saying how, and it makes sense, because people are going to get used to the idea that, okay, if I go to that corner, you know what, I can get a burger.
Yeah.
So it just generates more. It's like 1 + 1 = 3. It's synergy.
Yeah.
You can't just say we should be the only one and just knock the other blockchain, because there's other technology out there. Hell, the Solana does stuff that Ethereum can't do. There's Ethereum does stuff that Bitcoin can't do. There's other chains that can do both, something that neither one of those can do. I mean, this is really kind of boggles my mind that people get into this weird sort of tribalism, that they can't see the advantages, pluses and pros and cons of each chain.
I also think that, like, fundamentally, a lot of these Bitcoin maximalists don't actually understand how the existing financial system works, in that, we leverage debt heavily in our financial system. And without having the capacity to take on debt in some financial way, in some mechanism, you cannot have Bitcoin replace the entire financial system. Like, you need money markets.
They know that their fucking system is going to shit. Thailand is actually just supplied for the BRICS membership. They don't want to have to fuck with the dollar, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. The tide's shifting.
The tide is fucking shifting. So Arthur Hayes was just talking about that a couple months ago. The tide is shifting. The global world order, financial order is changing. The political order is changing, and banks just don't. They don't want to have to contend with some other entity coming in and having power over them.
Exactly. I think the other thing is with that, like, just more globally, like, you really need to decentralize your risk in terms of, like, where you have your assets. Like, crypto is obviously one source, but then if you have assets in the fiat system, the TradFi system, like, you don't just want all your money in one country, right?
You don't. There's no safety in hedging your bets on one system, one currency anymore. It's a global society, global world. It's in changing order.
I was just talking to my friend in Australia, and now, like, I mean, before I left, I think we talked about this in the channel before, like, I pretty much never carried my wallet with me anywhere, because I was the 6 months before I left Australia, I never took my wallet with me anywhere, because my license was on my phone, my bank cards were on my phone, I didn't need my wallet anymore, and I was basically completely cashless. So coming to Vietnam, first of all, was like big difference, having to get used to it. And secondly, now it's even more crazy. My friend was saying he needed to get cash out the other day, and he had to, like, drive, and it took him so long to find an ATM. And it reminded me of, like, when I was in China, because China is basically cashless. So even though all these vendors have cash, there is everyone uses WeChat and Alipay. So, like, to get to an ATM is so hard to find one.
Yeah, well, the problem is also that these institutions are limiting you, and it's part of the policy, I think, that's promulgated by the government. They're limiting you to $3,000 a month in USD, at least in America. I think it's about the equivalent in the EU. You take out more than that, and they got to give you a whole bunch of questions. And in the US, they call it the travel rule.
Yeah.
They're supposed to prevent, I guess, against money laundering or terrorism or whatever. But it's all designed to protect the big things.
Oh, and all the money laundering happens through fucking cash.
Yeah.
It's all cash.
I think TD Bank was one of the big ones that actually just got busted.
Yeah.
They got busted for laundering all kind of money.
It's funny because a lot of these, like, older TradFi people are just like, oh, crypto is used for crime, so therefore it should be banned. And it's like, well, those same people aren't saying the same thing when the banks are getting caught supporting money laundering.
They're not out there making all these wild claims, but it's just, TD Bank in America, they had like hundreds of millions they were involved in doing some money laundering, and TD Bank $650 million in drug money laundering. This is in New York.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I guess we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
They do a lot of building here in Vietnam. This is a really bustling country, rapidly developing still. And we talked real quick about Vietnam. There's going to be some really big speakers there this week.
Yeah, we've got some exciting side events. We'll put together some videos because we're all going to go to different side events, some of them together. So we'll record some videos. We'll put together just to give you guys a feel of, like, what the
What it's
energy
like.
is like in like these conferences. You know, the whole concept of this channel is to talk about Vietnam crypto ecosystem, and I guess we get sidelined talking about all the other aspects
Oh,
of
yeah.
crypto, but you know, there's a lot going on in this space in
Very
Vietnam,
lot.
and you know, we're excited to show you guys. Like this is last year, this was like one of the biggest conferences that happened.
Oh, it's going to be the biggest. Of course, they sold out of the VIP a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I couldn't even buy a paid ticket,
Yeah,
man.
we
I only
could-
we could only get free tickets.
Yeah,
It
we
was
can
already
only
sold
get the
out.
free tickets where you get to the conference, no side events. But luckily, we got some invites and some side events. So
We
it's
got the
gonna be
contacts,
nice.
so
That'll be nice. We'll be putting some filming on. We'll do some filming of the conference. They got some of the big heads from some of the big institutions coming in this week. This is going to be really phenomenal. I'm excited. I know I'm going to be there. I'm going to be allowed. I know they got High Roast Ventures is going to be here. 98. Of course, 98 used to be Coin 98, right?
yeah.
Vietnam Blockchain Association is going to be speaking. Tether,
We got the
CEO of
Tether,
Tether.
yeah.
Well, he's going to be online remotely. Of course, the CEO, founder of Sky Mavens, who's actually based here. Co-founder of Polygon, Sandeep. CMO of 98. Wintermute, Seeds co-founder. OKX co-president. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of big wigs here, man, that are going to be presenting. Of course, Mr. Lab, they're one of the big,
Yeah.
one of the big groups.
I
That's Mr. Lab is part of SWE, right?
yeah.
Yeah, they're really interesting group. I'm really pro SWE. Only thing I kind of have a worry about is their token allocation. And there's been a lot of questions about how they allocated their tokens. They've been kind of opaque about how they did the distributions for their founders and all the dev team. So that's the only thing that kind of raises little questions about SWE. But you know, the technology, the gaming concept, and the gaming console coming out next year. And they've actually got a couple good gaming side events that they're going to be putting on as well. So yeah, look forward to that. We're going to be doing that this week.
Should be exciting.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, I'm excited.
All right, guys.
Excited.
We'll see you again this
We'll
week.
see you this week. Same bat channel, same bat time. Keep it coffee and crypto.
See you guys later.